Hey everyone, my name's Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, the podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing Pirates of the Caribbean. Dead Man's Chest, They Tell No Tales.
That sounds right.
Hey everyone, and welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, featuring two guys getting bedazzled and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And thank you to Rich Voza on Facebook for that synonym suggestion. You can find him on, we just said this before, now I can't remember, brainsnorts.com.
Brainsnorts.com.
.com.
Trashing today for a better tomorrow.
Yes.
That's his tagline. Rich and I used to work together. He's one of my favorite co-employees.
Co-employees.
What is the proper word for this? Co-workers, co-employees. He's a published author. He also displays his not published work, some of his writing on there, some of his books, some of his thoughts on film. Go check it out. Brainsnorts.com.
If you have a synonym suggestion as well, you can hit us up on Facebook like Rich did, or Twitter, or Instagram, or any of our other social media, and we'll hear you out. Joe, what are we drinking this week? What did you force me to drink this week?
Yeah.
This is the third episode, if you can't tell already.
Mike and I literally just spent like 3 or 4 minutes trying to burp. It was bad. Okay, so this week we're drinking Calico Jack Caribbean Silver Rum. It's I don't know why I said premium. It's just
premium.
He's a premium. It's premium Caribbean rum. It's about 40% alcohol volume, 80 proof. So that's about what Virginia Black was. Catch up, Drake. 0 to 100, the catch up.
/ catch up.
But I mean, we've mixed this with Refreshe Cola.
Only the best cola. What is Refreshe? Is that like
I don't know, Mike. It's Refreshe.
Walgreens or like
It's from
whose store brand cola is Refreshe?
Acme, I believe.
Acme doesn't have their own cola?
Refreshe is Acme, I believe.
I'm out of the Acme game. We used to have an Acme by my parents' house in Newton, and then they closed it down and turned it into a fucking Dollar General. And now I don't know what Acme's like anymore.
The fucking Dollar General, man.
Just the Dollar General's always fucking
so
taking over everywhere.
It's really hard to tell where the bad cola starts and where the bad rum begins. Honestly, there was worse rum I could have gotten.
See, here's the thing about bad rum, though, is that it mixes well. Like, when you have, like, good rum or, like, good vodka, you can't mix it with shit because it's meant to be drunk on its own. It's got that distinctive flavor.
Mm-hmm.
This, I'm really just tasting cola in this. With, like, a little bit of that, like, rum spice and a little bit of the bite.
I saw Jack. I literally told Mike, I was like, I thought that Calico was a Captain Jack. I thought it was Captain Jack's fucking Caribbean Silver Rum.
And it does have like pirate swords.
It does.
And
it has
a skull.
It's very reminiscent.
Over it. And Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean.
If the company was wise enough, I think maybe they'd put this out in release for the new Pirates film.
I don't know if you can just do that on your...
Calico Jack, reach out to us. We'd love to be sponsored by your fantastic company. I think this is fantastic rum. I drink it.
I'd walk the plank for this.
I don't even watch these movies enough to know what Jack Sparrow says about rum. He says,
"Why is the Calico Jack gone?"
This is was so obviously a last episode. We just spent.
We had a very great conversation with next week's guest.
Right, yeah, this is the second episode, but we're filming this last. Yeah, and then next week's episode, we had like a really great episode with
Sean Mason.
Sean Mason
will be on for the Wonder Woman episode, so tune in for that.
And he's such a super interesting dude, and we talked with him for hours, just about like the landscape of being popular on the internet, because my God, go back and listen to that episode, or go forth or back.
Wait a week until it comes out and then listen to
Go next week and listen to that episode, because he has achieved what we've always wanted to achieve. He's
made it online.
You're right, yeah. He's doing the viral stuff.
But either way, it was a really cool episode.
He's infecting people.
That's a lot of fun. So look forward to that next week. Also look forward to How Many Fingers live.
Tell me all about it.
I will clap in time to the words you're saying. How Many Fingers recording live at the 5th annual Philadelphia Podcast Festival. You can check us out July 16th at 4 p.m. at Tattooed Mom in Philadelphia. That's a bar. Tattooed Mom Bar.
I feel so bad I corrected Mike on the first episode of tonight.
And now I
said, Mike, it's just Tattooed Mom. It's not Tattooed.
You're not wrong.
Mom, it's not the Xbox. It's just Xbox. And ever since then, he's just been like, July 16th, 4 p.m. at Tattooed Mom in Philadelphia. Not Tattooed Mom Bar.
Skip the words that I have written down
Philadelphia. Here. Yeah, no, that's the notes that we have written in front of us on our Google Doc.
Google Documents. We got accepted.
Now.
We got accepted to a podcast festival. We'll be recording live. There's there's like 7 other podcasts recording live that day at that bar. There's a ton other that entire week recording at bars around Philadelphia.
That month,
most of them are free. There's like 1 or 2 shows with bigger podcasts that are paid for at like Trocadero and like one other
Trocadero, Philomaca, which is a fantastic venue. I just went there for the first time.
For what?
I saw a live comedy show there the other month. It was really great, Philomaca. But, however, I said this in previous episodes, maybe future episodes.
Who knows?
I've never been to Tattooed Mom, but I've literally heard it's one of the best bars in Philadelphia. From trusted people.
So come check us out. 4 p.m. We'll be on for about like an hour or so. Recording,
my friend Dan,
talking. There will be
crowd to 60+ bars in Philadelphia.
He's counted.
I don't want to say his last name because he's in a professional occupation. But he organizes these sort of bar crawls, and he's been to hundreds actually. But he said Tattooed Mom is in his top 5 favorite bars in Philadelphia. So
that's pretty cool. Then
again,
I'm excited to go there just to go there.
Same.
Much less to record
honestly,
there.
He's not the first person who's told me that. So honestly, if you want to experience one of the best bars in Philadelphia and you want to see a live show of our podcast, and again, be included in our podcast,
we're gonna have lots of crowd participation. We'll have merch there. You can come talk to us.
Not live work.
It's live. We're working.
Yeah, we're not getting paid. And shouts to, Philadelphia Podcast Festival for inviting us to come and do this, and Tattooed Mom for having us.
For hosting us, yeah, absolutely.
You know what? Tattooed Mom could have just had a normal day of business without a bunch of podcasts being like, record me! Hey! Mom! Mama! Record me, please.
I'm gonna bring 5 friends. Record me.
But no, I mean, honestly, we'll be there before and we'll be there after. Come have a beer with us, and I think I especially want you there during, because I think we want some crowd work. We want people to come up with us and talk about movies, it's really...
If you've ever wanted to be on the podcast, now's your chance.
Or...
a walk-on spot on How Many Fingers
exactly.
Podcast.
Or if you're extremely shy and you just want to experience the podcast while you're, drinking along with us.
Yeah, we're not going to call you out. Like, I fucking hate when...
Yeah. You gotta raise your hands.
Bands or magicians or shit. I went to see a magician like a month or so ago at the Newton Theater. It was really cool, like watching all the magic and stuff. But for the entirety of this show, my anxiety was at fucking like 11 because I was like, he's gonna fucking call on me. There's something about me where I know he's just gonna look at me and be like, "You come on stage and do this trick now." When I don't want to be in front of people at all. But come watch me be in front of people at Tattooed Mom in Philadelphia.
We're gonna be super nervous.
Oh
dude.
yeah.
Honestly though, I mean, you perform in a live band all the time.
It's different. It's so different. With a live band, it's like you're performing rehearsed material, and you're also like performing with like 5 other people who are performing at the same time.
Guys, please come and help us out.
It's so different, I'm telling you.
Honest,
I mean, I still get nervous before like band shows too, but this is so different.
I mean, we talk about this. I don't know. We really do. We need some people to come and shout out some, movie names of movies that we're going to talk about.
Come be a groupie for How Many Fingers.
We really do. And we want to meet you guys. And again, we're allowed to set up some sort of merch table sort of thing. So if you've ever wanted to, again, we've never had a live performance. We've never had an open kind of audience to come watch our podcast. This is history in the making. And again, if you want to get any sort of merch, come on down.
Come on down.
Cyrus
Come on now.
burping. There's been a lot of carbonation tonight. July 16th, 4 p.m. Tattooed Mom
Bar
in Philadelphia.
Let me read this IMDb and let's get into the movie so we can talk about this thing that we were forced to see.
Do that movie.
This is a really easy one. You ready for this?
I'm looking at it right now. I can't wait for Mike to read this.
Captain Jack Sparrow searches for the Trident of Poseidon.
That's it?
Oh, let me go back to IMDb now and make sure they didn't update it. I might have done that like pretty soon after the movie came out. But at one point, that was the IMDb description was Captain Jack Sparrow searches for the Trident of Poseidon. Oh, it's taking forever to load, of course. Come on, we're live. We're recorded live. You can start your notes. I'm gonna see if this will load.
All right. So Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales was directed by
Where you're stalling.
no reason in particular. Joachim Roning. Dear Lord, if you guys ever listen to this, it's directed by 2 guys, Joachim Roning and Espen Sandberg. If you guys ever listen to this podcast, I'm so sorry that I butchered your names. You are obviously...
So sorry that we're about to roast your movie.
Right, yeah, no, exactly. But honestly, you guys directed...
I've been wondering why this won't
Kon-Tiki?
load, but I typed in IMBD.
They've directed a film called Kon-Tiki, which I've heard like really great things about. From 2012. 2012.
This episode. God help us.
But before that, they've directed 2 short films. A film in 2006 titled Banditas, and a film in 2008 titled Max Manus, Man of War.
Whoa, update.
And Kon-Tiki in 2012. And they also directed 2 episodes of Marco Polo. That Netflix original series, baby. That Netflix money, baby.
They added to the IMDb description.
And then Doomsday, the TV movie. I don't know what that's about, but I'd like to know. Go on, Mike. Read it for me.
You ready for the new IMDb description?
I'm ready for it.
Captain Jack Sparrow searches for the Trident of Poseidon while being pursued by an undead sea captain and his crew. Thanks for that added clause.
This episode,
like literally, like someone wrote the IMDb description, and then their boss was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm paying you to write a description. Add more to this." And he's like, "Oh, fucking," while being pursued by an undead. Minimal effort on the Pirates of the Caribbean IMDb.
Oh boy. I'm so glad Mike is as drunk as me during this episode as opposed to I no longer feel at home in this world anymore.
Which I don't feel at home.
I don't feel at home in this world anymore, which I feel like I was solo drunk. And solo making an embarrassment of myself. Jokes on Mike though, because I didn't really write Joe notes for this, so I'm just reading off the IMDb page and Wikipedia. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Haven't they already had Dead Men?
It feels like
in one of their subtitles.
Dead Man's Chest.
Yeah, fucking shame on you. Fucking call it Poseidon's Trident.
It was also known as Pirates of the Caribbean: Salazar's Revenge.
I'm reading that now on the Wikipedia page, and maybe that was better than Poseidon's Trident. But it's a 2017 American fantasy swashbuckler film, the fifth installment of the Pirates of the Caribbean film series, and the sequel to On Stranger Tides that came out in 2011.
2011 was the last Pirates movie?
9/11 was the next.
That's not what I said. Wow.
Okay, the film was directed by, we already went over that, I don't know their names, and the script was by Jeff Nathanson, with Jerry Bruckheimer serving again as the producer. Johnny Depp, Kevin McNally, and Jeffrey Rush reprise their roles as Jack Sparrow, Joshua Gibbs, and Hector Barbosa, respectively. The film also stars Javier Bardem, Armando Salazar, Brenton Thwaites as Henry Turner, yada 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 yada. The film, okay, we can just.
I'm looking up Jeff Nathanson. He's actually written some decent stuff compared to how shitty this movie was. Spoiler alert. Catch Me If You Can, The Terminal, Rush Hour 3. Not a horrible, I mean, it's funny. It works. Yeah. Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a segment from New York, I Love You, Tower Heist, and then this, and then in the TV movie Captain Jokes, Parrots, Disaster, what? Of the Caribbean. Oh, and he's working on the Lion King movie. And Rush Hour 2. That was actually one of the good Rush Hours. That's the best Rush Hour.
Yeah, that was the best Rush Hour.
And Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Oh, no. All right. I
mean, that's a good action credit.
I mean, that's like the general gist that you need to know about this movie.
Some people worked on it. Some people were paid to make this movie.
This is one of the more expensive pirate movies. The budget was over $2 million.
2 million?
200 million.
They spent really 2 million?
This was an indie film. $200 million.
It's a passion project for John Depp.
For Jean Depp.
Hi, my name is Jean Depp.
Hi, my name
You're watching Celebrity Zillionaires.
If you're still listening to this episode,
we're sorry.
It's kind of been doing pretty poorly in the United States. It's made about $30 million less than its opening weekend than the previous sequel, Pirates of the Caribbean On Stranger Tides, which I've never personally seen, but I've heard it's terrible and totally unmemorable. However, that movie went on to make $1 billion
Stranger Tides.
worldwide.
That broke a bunch of records.
Worldwide. It didn't break records domestically. I don't think so.
Okay.
So, I think that Disney and the whole Pirates kind of entourage is really hoping that Worldwide will bring in the money.
How did it do domestically?
This time around. Let me look it up right now. Mike, entertain the people. No.
That's entertaining, right? Just
Mike,
music noises.
Mike, I don't think you're doing it. So, I mean, May 26th, I mean, it's the past 2 weekends, it's done great at the box office. So far, it's had an overall gross as of now, and we're in the middle of a weekend. We don't know what's going on this weekend yet. It's been a box office topper the past 2 weeks, and it's grossed 180 mil.
So they still haven't made their money back.
They still haven't made their money back, but I'm looking at weekend, and
what was their opening weekend?
I'm 142 million.
The opening? Oh,
yes.
So they had a big drop off.
Yes, but this is also, I haven't gone into worldwide.
Okay.
That's where their real money comes in. So international, yeah, it's fucking outrageous. Let me
Pirates Worldwide.
Yeah.
What are you on, Box Office Mojo?
Yeah, I'm on Box Office
Mojo.
You know, I can never figure out how to get into. I'm in weekend.
I usually go to like the individual movie itself to find the worldwide stuff.
I don't fucking do that, Dad.
It's not like when you were growing up, Dad.
Box Office Mojo is different now. I don't know.
Let me find it.
Let's just assume that they're doing a lot better now, and that Pirates of the Caribbean is
domestic. They made 100 million. They might not be counting this weekend, so then assume it's even more for worldwide. Worldwide or foreign. Oh no! All right, so even better. Foreign, they made 300 million. They made 75% of their sales worldwide or foreign. So total, they've made 400 million worldwide so far, according to Box Office Mojo, and probably more than that because it's only counting 100 domestic when you're saying it was.
Fam.
They're doing. Don't worry about.
Fam, when you making $1 billion on your fucking franchise movie, on your fucking. Okay, that was the fourth. This is the fifth, because it takes fucking 5
were you reading Stranger Tides numbers?
No.
Okay.
Honestly, it takes 5 movies to tell the story of a theme park ride.
We need a prequel to a theme park ride.
Exactly. I mean, as long as we're going to talk about this movie, I fucking hate these movies.
All of them?
All of them.
You didn't, even when they came out, you didn't like the originals.
Numero uno, Curse of the Black Girl, Black Pearl.
Mike, edit that out. Cut that one out.
And Mike's can correct that. No, I did that on purpose. That's a joke. Get it?
Humor.
Okay, cool. But honestly, when they came out with the first film, I don't know. I do admire that it was a film that reinvigorated this sort of pirate genre,
the action adventure,
or even just pirates. It's fucking pirates, you know. That's a whole other genre of just unexplored fiction or film or what have you. But I feel like the franchise has gone from something new and exciting to super stale. I mean, even the most like fundamental fans of this franchise have become more just disappointed with every single edition of this movie. Like including Jack Sparrow as a character. Like he's just gotten worse and worse.
I will agree. I think the original trilogy, like I liked number 2, and I actually really liked number 3 at World's End. I think there's a lot of stuff if you go back to that is really well done in terms of servicing the trilogy and just cool stuff from like a filmmaking standpoint as well. There's a lot of cool scenes in At World's End. And I feel like all the stuff that's done services the characters from that trilogy really well, where like there's not a whole lot where you're like, what is this doing in terms of it? Like it's all serving some kind of character arc for all the different characters. And the way that all three of them, the character arcs kind of intertwine is really nicely done throughout the trilogy. Like it's pretty clear that like the same people were kind of helping to make that trilogy work for the first 3. On Stranger Tides is fucking garbage.
Yeah. And with this film, I feel like they're not even like tapping into the mythology in a meaningful way anymore. Like a lot of the previous sequels did. Like this film is just like, it's completely meaningless. It's just, there's no, I don't know. Like I was saying before, Johnny Depp is Captain Jack Sparrow. He used to kind of be like this like guy who was just kind of like flying by the seat of his pants, but he kind of had like this overarching like plan. Or this whatever.
He had this amazing charisma where like he could talk his way out of like any problem that he would get into, and even if he couldn't, he would still get through by like luck. But it was not like luck in terms of like he would get by because things would just kind of seem to turn out his way, or he would talk his way out of it. Whereas in this movie, I feel like we're watching like Captain Jack, like the Mr. Magoo version, where it's like he just kind of like walks into like a building and it's like, oh, it's falling down around me, and I just happen to walk out like unscathed because like it's funny or something.
That's what I was about to say. Mr.
There's
Magoo,
there's no charisma.
Like Charlie Chaplin kind of esque humor where it's kind of like the building. Oh, like I was in like the one window when the barn.
Yeah. The barn fell down.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, honestly, Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow shtick is it's fucking done. It's over. It's completely uninteresting. He's the least novel part of this film, in my opinion. Go. What were you gonna say?
I'm going to say that I think if he had done Jack Sparrow the right way, it might have worked. But I feel like he fucking forgot how to do Jack Sparrow. Like in this movie, it doesn't seem like it seems like someone doing like a bad like celebrity impression of like, my name's John Depp, like I'm Jack, like doing like the bad like Jack, like it seems like the guys at like the Walt Disney like theme park like doing like the Jack Sparrow, like, oh, I'm drunk and I'm like falling around and I'm stumbling over my words. Like it doesn't seem like the magic that we had in those first 3 movies. And slightly like on Stranger Tides, at least Johnny Depp was working in that movie. John Depp, but it was missing the rest of the things that made the first 3 movies work. And then this one, we don't even have Jack Sparrow and Johnny Depp working well in this movie. Maybe because people are feeding him his lines through earpieces. It's something that me and Joe have discovered recently that it's hilarious. Is that Johnny Depp apparently does not memorize any of his lines. Not because he's a great method actor, but because he's fucking lazy and he wears an earpiece.
When he's not throwing his wife down the stairs.
When he's not throwing Amber down the stairs, he pays someone to read him his script on set. So he doesn't even memorize stuff like before he walks on set. He has an earpiece that he wears and people feed him his lines on set right before he's about to speak them before a take.
I also heard that he did some sort of promo thing at Disney World where he dressed up in full costume and he did the whole Jack Sparrow shtick, and Johnny Depp got like really mad that no one noticed that he was actually Johnny Depp, and like people were just like, nobody gives a fuck anymore, Johnny Depp. Nobody fucking cares about you. Like, he's bankrupt and he's like spending all of his money on like fine wines like every month. Like, it's just his life is a fucking nightmare.
Like, just I wish we could like rewind like 5 years, but like think how like highly we used to hold like Johnny Depp in like our esteem like 5 years ago,
yeah.
where people are like, why the fuck doesn't he have an Oscar yet? He wears a lot of costumes. He does a lot of voices. And like, I don't want to take that away from him. He is very good at like picking very interesting roles. And if you look at a lot of like some of his like earlier work, like Ed Wood is still like one of my favorite movies of all time. And he's not really being like a weird dude. It's just an interesting role that he picked in that. But since like then, he's really just picked like, what's the weirdest costume I can put on and what's the weirdest accent I can do to completely transform myself.
Jack Sparrow is literally, this is what Jack Sparrow is. He's a costume with ticks, and that's it. That's like,
and it's not bad. It's not an Oscar-winning role. Well, it's great for action adventure. We don't get that kind of, acting really in action adventure a whole lot.
But what this film tries to do is it tries to return to the magic of the first film. It tries to recapture that sort of like budding romance. It tries to recapture that kind of like will they, won't they kind of thing. And the fatal mistake I think they make is that they position Jack Sparrow as like a main character in this film, which isn't interesting.
He has
at all.
No business being in this movie. He has absolutely no investment in any point of the plot of this movie whatsoever. Why is Jack Sparrow doing anything in this movie? He's not integral to the plot besides having this compass that for some reason they like arbitrarily tied to like the Devil's Triangle, where if it somehow loses his ownership, then the Devil's Triangle like crumbles. Like,
oh my god,
what does that mean, or how is that established in any way? Even when it happened in the movie, I was like, what? Like, he sold the compass, so now the Devil's Triangle is like collapsing now? Okay. Who said that was a thing?
Honestly, I don't even know what you're talking about. The Devil's Triangle is collapsing?
When he sells when John Depp gets really depressed and he goes to the tavern and he sells the compass that like points to wherever he wants, whatever he wants, it points to that. There's like a cool like thing in like the other movies, like especially 2 and 3. It played a very big role in that. I think they still did something with it in Stranger Tide. They keep like going back to this prop piece. Excuse me. He sells it to like get a drink because he's broke or whatever, and then when as soon as it like leaves his like ownership, the pirates, the like villains, are able to leave the Devil's Triangle where they've been trapped.
Really,
That's what triggers it, is him losing ownership of the compass.
I thought because
like where is that established before that at all? Like it just kind of happens and you're like, oh, out of context, I guess I understand that triggered that, but
I'm not even a film of this franchise.
Joe is not a film.
I'm not even a fan of this franchise. And I know that Jack Sparrow has given away this stupid fucking compass like 5 or 6 times during this franchise. Why is this the first time? Like, I just don't get that. Like, the compass, the whole Poseidon's trident, they're all like these fucking MacGuffins, like, they're stupid.
Mm-hmm. The compass was fine before, but they've put so much weight on it and they keep like leaning back on it. Like it's this big like chess piece that we have to keep using in all these like scripts. But like there's only so much mileage you can get out of like a prop piece like that. Like we've already had like 2 or 3 films that were completely based around like finding this compass.
What is a MacGuffin?
I had no idea what you're talking about. I've heard it before, but
MacGuffin. Noun. British. An object or device in a movie or a book that serves merely as a trigger for the plot. That's what it is, baby.
It is a MacGuffin. Yeah,
it's these,
and they've used it like 5 times.
Yeah, no, that's literally what it is. Poseidon's trident is fucking ridiculous, and we'll get to that at the end because it's the fucking most MacGuffin that you'll come into contact with.
We don't even we have no mythology about, but it's just the trident exists, but like, so Poseidon was a real thing now. And like, we're not going to like talk about like where Poseidon is or what his motivations were or why he just left this trident that for some reason is able to break all curses that ever existed.
That's fucking ridiculous. We'll get into that.
Everything about this movie is ridiculous. Let's start.
This movie.
Let's simplify. Let's start from the beginning. Okay. We start on like Henry Turner, like trying to go save like his father, Will Turner, or whatever.
I really like this first scene.
It's not bad.
It's very.
It's a little cheesy, but it's good cheesy.
Fairy tale kind of storybook-esque.
It's keeping us with some of the more relatable characters. The entire franchise, despite like Jack Sparrow, he's the we pay him the most money. He's doing the most acting, and he's like the most recognizable face of this franchise. It's not really ever been about Jack Sparrow's story. It's really been about Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann's story, the entire franchise.
Right.
So having Will Turner show up in the first scene is a good choice in a vacuum in terms of I'm glad we got to see him again. I'm somewhat interested in this story because of that. Henry Turner, I don't give a fuck about. It's another, they do this all the times in movies where it's like, here's a character, his only character trait is that he has a mission. We're not going to tell you like what kind of character he is, what kind of person he is. All you have to know is just that he's motivated by something that his father told him like 20 years ago, and he's going to base his entire life around it, and you're supposed to relate to that. Like, how many of us have based our entire lives around something that our dad told us like 20 years ago, or that our a fucking like necklace our mom gave us like however long ago? Like,
nobody.
But how many movies do people try to base relatable characters around like, oh, like I'm just motivated by this one thing that has to do with my mom or my dad from like however ago? Like, I feel like movie and screenwriters don't recognize how many people are just their own people apart from their parents, like who don't spend their entire lives trying to avenge their parents or figure out who their parents were or figure out like, you know, what made their parents tick or some like mystery about their parents. But that's always like a screenwriting crutch when it comes to like creating a character. It's like, oh, that's their character trait. It's this way that they relate to these other people that you also don't know. And it's so fucking weak. Like Jack Sparrow was interesting and carried the entire franchise, and even Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann, because they had other things about them. Like Elizabeth Swann was like this kind of defiant woman that was like in a time period where women were really looked down upon, and was kind of like this action hero almost at the same time. Whereas like Will Turner was like, like Aladdin in terms of like being like a peasant in this time of like royalty that was still able to kind of rise above that in a way. And that was all interesting. Whereas like Henry Turner is just kind of like, okay, he's looking to find a way to break his father's curse. And that's all there is about Henry Turner. He's the most boring fucking character I've ever seen.
Can I say that I tried to sleep during this movie?
Wait, what?
I tried to sleep.
Oh, tried to sleep? At what point? At what point were you like, I'm giving up and I want to sleep?
I don't know. I was really, I mean, we'll get into parts that I was really intrigued by, but when they get into like the plot of it, I mean, I feel like this is the last time I can talk about this because like it's just getting boring at this point. But I went and I saw Wonder Woman for $4. God bless T-Mobile Tuesdays. And I'm a fucking ninja by now. And I just wandered out of Wonder Woman with my fucking 3D goggles. And I went...
Everything looks really weird.
And I went right into a pirate showing.
In 3D or?
In 3D. I can give you guys a few tips too. What you want to do is you're gonna want to wear like a hoodie, like a zip-up hoodie. Am I doing this? You're gonna want to wear a zip-up hoodie, and that way, when the ticket checker checks your ticket, you're like, "Oh, hey, what's up? I'm Hoodie Boy." And then when you come out of the movie, you're like, hey, what's up? I'm still Hoodie Boy. You're going to want to put eyes on the theater showing that you want to go into, and you go, cool, that's where I want to go into. You go into the bathroom. Go into the bathroom, you take like your pee, you wash your hands, whatever, do whatever you want, go wild. Then you take the hoodie off and you kind of just like throw it over your shoulder. You come out and you're like, hey, I'm the guy in a t-shirt with a hoodie thrown over my shoulder. I'm just gonna go see the new Pirates movie.
Former Hoodie Boy.
I'm just gonna see the new fucking Pirates movie. I'm gonna get fucking wild. And nobody... Here's the other fucking thing, is when I first started doing this, I was like, oh my god, and is what I'm doing, is that wrong? Like, and I really struggled with it, with like some sort of morality, and like any other sort of morality, sort of like really struggle. What anybody would do is what they would search for it on Google, and that's what I did. And I eventually came across a Reddit AMA, and somebody who was like a Regal manager was like, no, a lot of you are asking this question. I don't really care, and it's not really in our handbook to stop people who are like going to see multiple showings of like as very
it's okay, Joe, what you did.
Yeah. Still, I feel like I should stop saying this because eventually
that one Regal manager is gonna be like, gotcha, motherfucker.
The Regal 22 is gonna come after, because the Regal 16 or 12 that's by me, they're trying to prevent that by not having the showings on each thing. It's like a mystery of like what door you're gonna walk in.
You just look at your ticket to know which.
Yeah, they're really motherfuckers. But this one, it's a fucking Regal 22, baby. They can't do shit like that.
Not at a 22. They would never.
Not at 22.
Is that how many theaters there is? Is it 22 theaters?
Yeah.
Impressive. Anyway. I don't know why that's impressive.
Impressive.
You've impressed me with how many theaters you have there.
Hey, that's pretty impressive. I gotta take you there sometime, Mike. They got an IMAX 3D. I'll blow you away. Here's to my friends.
Oh, God. What else do we have to talk about this movie? We talked about Johnny Depp forgetting how to do Jack Sparrow.
Jean Depp.
Like, am I alone in thinking that it felt like he was just doing an impression of the former Jack Sparrow that he was doing? Like, it did not sound the same.
He watched people at Disneyland doing an impression of him, and
it had none of the magic of like what he used to do. I don't know if that's just him like dialing it in for this one for his insanely large paycheck that they probably gave him for this.
I mean, we already talked about the opening scene, but the scene following this, I liked that scene, and I really enjoyed the scene following this. It's kind of like this whole like old English scene, like, and they're talking about this new bank that they're opening up, and it's the most secure bank, and they have this...
I like everything that's not Johnny Depp in this scene.
They have this vault, and for some reason when they open this vault, Johnny Depp and like the like
bank's manager's wife.
Yeah, the bank manager's wife is in there, and they're having sex on top of like all
not
of the...
Actively, they've had sex.
They've had sex, like, on top of all the golden cash that's in there. And like, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know why, but sure, I'll buy into this. And then Johnny Depp's like, oh, what am I doing in here? And then he's like, oh, I remember, I'm robbing it. And then all of a sudden it goes into this weird like Fast Five scene where like it's instead of a bunch of horses, it's a bunch of, or instead of a bunch of cars, it's a bunch of horses like pulling. It's like a bunch of like horses like pulling like a vault like around the city, except it's not even a vault. It's like it's an entire bank for a really long time.
Which is absolutely ridiculous, but that's not even like a part that like
I kind of like this part.
It's the simple stuff that they fuck up in this movie. Like, this is something where like maybe if the simple stuff was working, I'd be like, oh, this is kind of ridiculous that they're like hauling around this bank. But when the simple stuff is fucking up, like, this is the stuff that I like hang on to. Like, this is kind of a cool scene. Like, it reminds me of the original movies, like these ridiculous over the top set pieces that create for these memorable scenes. Like, when have we ever seen this in a movie before? Like someone trying to pull a vault and it all goes to shit and they're pulling the entire bank around the entire time. That's great in and of itself. Everything that Johnny Depp touches in this scene is garbage. Like, it's not Jack Sparrow anymore. It's this weird impersonation of Jack Sparrow where it's like, when we used to watch Jack Sparrow, it was like, yeah, he was a little drunk at times and his voice was kind of like slurred, but he was still this really clever, witty guy who was always funny, always like in control of the situation and impossibly cool. And even if he wasn't, luck was on his side. Now he's like a fucking weird alcoholic who's like impossibly drunk all the time, to the point where like he doesn't know where he is. He's waking up in places that he doesn't know. He's forgotten this entire plan that he's done or whatever. He's completely broke. He's lost his ship. His crew is like ready to leave him. Like, nothing about this is like witty or cool or clever or like charming in any way. It's like starting to get like sad. Like, I feel like it's like a metaphor for like Johnny Depp's career, where we're like, oh, like this is now just looking really weird and you beat your wife, so I don't want to support you anymore.
I really like this scene. I don't know. It looked great. It looked like a practical effect where they're like pulling.
Yeah, nothing about it looked like CGI. Really,
they were pulling this building through the city. It was kind of weird. It wasn't kind of weird. It was just, this was the most normal thing in this fucking film. No, but exactly, Johnny Depp himself. This is a really hard. I don't know. Like, again, like before they used to have this kind of like overarching theme where Jack Sparrow knew exactly what he was doing.
He would appear like he didn't know what he was doing, but in the end he was like, oh, but this was my plan all along. I talked you into accepting this deal where actually I'm the benefactor of whatever is going on. Or, you know, while I was delaying your, you know, distracting you from this, like my friends were pulling up with whatever I was going to get away on, or some bullshit like that. And it was always like, it was clever, even if it was a little cheesy, that like it was a little distraction to the audience as well. But it always worked. You were always like, oh, that's witty. Like, I respect Jack Sparrow for doing this. Nothing in this seems like smart on his part. It just seems, again, like Mr. Magoo. Like, he's just kind of walking and stuff happens to be like laying out before him in order for him to not die.
Right.
And then also to the point where like there's nothing that, like, I don't understand why he's a part of this script to begin with. Like, apart from, I mean, I understand why, because it's a Pirates movie, but I don't know why they didn't write the script to involve him more. Like, it involves him, but there's nothing that's really, like, driving him as a character in this movie.
He's
like,
such a confusing...
People are trying to kill him. Like, the whole Captain Salazar has revenge... Salazar has... Salisbury has, like, revenge on his mind about Captain Jack. So he's chasing him, but you don't ever really get the idea of, like, oh, I need to escape him or I'll die. He's just kind of along for the ride because the movie needs him to be along for the ride.
He's like, again, they try to write him into this movie like he's the most important pirate that has ever lived, but he's also this fucking train wreck of a guy.
He's sad to watch in this movie how much of an alcoholic he is. Like,
it's my other thing is, like, didn't play movies, for me at all. Yeah,
it was charming in other movies because it was like, oh, you know, he's a functional alcoholic because he's still witty and charming and he still always manages to pull off whatever he's doing. In this, it's like he's actually fucking shit up because of how much an alcoholic he is, and it's kind of sad to watch now. And it's like a metaphor again for the Captain Jack role just like souring in our minds. Like, we're just kind of like, the jig is up. Like, it's not funny anymore.
It is, and it's very bizarre how it's played out in the screenplay. I mean, there's kind of like the whole, who's the young boy in the
Henry Turner in this one? Or?
Yeah, in Henry. I mean, okay, so first he trades away that compass just for like a fucking simple bottle of booze, which is sad. And then even Henry runs into Jack Sparrow, who he's kind of idolized in a way, and is like, he's the greatest pirate to ever live, kind of. And I felt like it was almost some sort of like weird, I don't know, like outside narration
like meta scene of like
it was very
when he
meta,
looks at him, he's like, "Oh, you can't be Jack Sparrow. Like,
right,
you don't even have any pants on."
Because he's like, because this film is like, he's the greatest pirate to ever live. He's been in every single like important thing that's ever happened on the sea, kind of. But then he's also like this hopeless, crazy alcoholic. You know, like it's very strange.
It's lost its charm at this point. Like, and in the other movies, the thing that always redeemed it was like even if he started off the movie as that like hopeless, you know, thrill-seeking junkie, like alcoholic, like by the end of the movie, he would do something that would like redeem himself. Whereas in this movie, he literally is just kind of like, "Oh, we're going over here? Cool. I'll follow you guys over here. Oh, we're going over here? Oh, that sounds good. Okay, whatever we're doing is fine by me. I have no real like investment in this plot or this movie to begin with at all. I'm just kind of following you guys because you need Jack Sparrow to be in this to make it a Pirates movie. Like, there's nothing that really involves Jack Sparrow in this. They need his compass, but that's about it. Like, there's nothing that's like, oh, you know, why would Jack Sparrow, you know, risk his neck to like follow all these people? He has no real connection to these characters. In the Curse of the Black Pearl, in that trilogy, at least there was this weird connection that he ended up forging with Will Turner, where he had this kind of respect where like, you're trying to do things the right way, but I kind of respect that. And then he had this weird attraction to Elizabeth Swann. He doesn't have that for what's her name, Karina Smith in this, and then he doesn't have that same respect for Henry Turner in this either, even though they're trying to recreate both of those characters at the same time.
Right, yeah.
None of it works.
And there's a lot of like really fun gags and set pieces in this film.
Yeah, that's
that I enjoyed.
Something we should explain is that we're trashing the shit out of this movie, but it's not entirely unenjoyable.
I mean,
even
like,
though Joe tried to fall asleep during it.
I no. Well, I mean, we have this. Actually, now I can't even remember like how everything plays out. I mean, we have the first scene, then we have the bank robbery scene, and then we have. I mean, at some point there comes a scene where we have a scene where they're trying to hang the female lead,
Karina Smith, yeah,
right, who they say is a witch, and and Johnny Depp is like, oh, I'll take the guillotine because like I love like the French women or something. Like it's very humorous. And again, this whole guillotine scene is like nothing I've ever seen in a film. It's really funny. It's kind of like they strap like this camera like right under Johnny Depp.
Oh, that part was really cool. Yeah.
And yeah, this guillotine's like through centrifugal force.
They fired a cannon at the guillotine stand so that the guillotine itself is like spinning around while he's strapped to it. So we're seeing like gravity play out where like it's like watching like a roller coaster ride. Like he spins around and the guillotine is swinging down because gravity is going down, and then he spins up and the guillotine is going away. And it's just this constant thing where it's like, oh, it's going to chop my head off, and it's not, and then it's going to chop my head off. That was pretty clever. And there are a lot of cool set pieces in this movie where you're like, that's clever. I haven't seen that before. Like the fucking like undead sharks. Like I read a review from Brian Truitt from the USA Today, who was like, why haven't these been in the entire Pirates trilogy before? Like that's a really cool set piece, like undead sharks that you just put in the water, and you're like, oh, okay. Like now we have to worry about sharks that can't die.
Right. But with her and like kind of like we're gonna hang the witch, I was kind of like, how many times have we had like a person who's going to be hung in this fucking franchise who narrowly
franchise a lot,
who narrowly escapes like, I was going to be hung but I survived, kind of, you know. It's
one of the things that I do think works in this movie is the character of Karina Smith. I feel like everything else is like trying to recreate like the Curse of the Black Pearl in some way. Like you have Henry Turner, who's obviously just trying to be Will Turner, but like less interesting and less attractive than Orlando Bloom, with less emotive eyes. Like I feel like this guy can't express any emotions through no fault of his own, but he just does not have like the eyes that were like he can do whatever he wants with his face, but his eyes are not expressing any emotion whatsoever. They're just kind of like there.
Right,
and you're
right.
like, I don't care about anything that you're saying, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
Acting's not for you. Go back to being a model or something. I don't care. And then like the villains in this are a copy of the Curse of the Black Pearl villains to begin with, because we already had like an undead army of people that are like out like trying to like break this curse before, and like they were much cooler in Curse of the Black Pearl.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were more relatable. In Curse of the Black Pearl, it was like they were immortal and they were trying to break the curse of immortality because they didn't even care if they died anymore. They just didn't want to live like in this life like without pleasure. Whereas in this, we have like these undead people who just want revenge, which is like really hard to relate to, like as an audience. Like I felt, not that we were like completely relating, but like it's easier to relate to an undead army that's like, you know, I just want to go back to living like a normal life where like I can enjoy food and enjoy like kissing a woman and enjoy like feel the sun on my face, like, and all that shit. Or then in like this, it's like revenge, just pure revenge is a much harder thing to relate to, especially how poorly established it is in this movie to begin with as well.
This film is ridiculous. It's fucking 2.5 hours long. It's such a bloated movie. There's so many moving parts of the mythos too, for literally no reason. I don't know. The plot.
Karina Smith is what I was talking about.
But yeah, okay, go on then.
Well, just that she's like the only like fresh thing that's introduced into this movie. Everything else is like recycling stuff that worked in Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, but making it not work in this movie. She's the only like fresh kind of idea. She's not even entirely fresh. Like we had like this is a sexist thought, so I apologize in advance, but like, we already had like a woman who's like kind of breaking the mold in Elizabeth Swann. She's just breaking a mold in a new way, but it's still cool in this era to see like we have this universe where like witches and magic and all this shit is real, and then we have someone who's completely science minded and is like, no, there's a reason for all this, and so there's science behind all of this, and she's like also trying to break like the mold of like women can't do this, women can't do that at the same time. Like I was pretty interested in her character like from the get-go, just from like that alone. And she still does have like the idea of like, oh, like I have to find out like who my father is, like we were just like ripping on before, but because she has these other characteristics, I'm like more interested in her character than Henry Turner, who's literally just like, I have to free my father. I don't care about living my entire life at all.
I was about to say, the plot is completely nonsense. I hated the fucking soap opera elements of like, who's related to who, kind of, you know? It was just, that was laughably bad.
Barbossa's her dad?
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't really make sense with like the timeline, and it really doesn't even add much to the movie, like this movie.
Yeah, because Henry was conceived within the timeline of this trilogy,
exactly,
which means that Karina obviously was. And so it's also weird because it's like the entire movie, like especially Barbossa, but also like Jack, they're always talking about like the pirate's life and like how much they value like the freedom of the sea, and like they never talk negatively about it. Like all they want is to be on a pirate ship, robbing other people of their money and just like living off like the plunder of like the sea and stuff like that. They don't even want to go back on land and live life on land. Like he's got all the money in the world and he just wants to be on his boat all the time. But then like he has no negative feelings about that. But then when he has a daughter, he's like, oh, I don't like they insert some like weird feeling from like a mafia movie or something like that, where it's like, oh, I don't want that life for her, so I'm gonna put her in like an orphanage and something like that. Like there's no semblance of that idea anywhere else in the trilogy or in this franchise of like the pirate life being a bad life. All they talk about is how much they love the pirate life.
Right, exactly.
Now that's all they want for like everyone, and there's nothing better than that. And it's supposed to represent this idea. And the rest of the in the rest of the trilogy, there's no idea of it being like this bad thing. It represents freedom because the opponent of them is like the East India Trading Company, who is like, oh, like closed-mindedness and laws and regulation and no fun. And they're like, it's a pirate's life for me. Like we're drinking all the time, we're spending all our money, we're sleeping with women and all that stuff. It's just very weird to like kind of put a more realistic sense on that and be like, oh, I don't want that life for my daughter. like that kind of invalidates the rest of the entire series.
No, definitely, yeah.
Oh, all that stuff that you guys were fighting for the rest of the movie is actually a shitty thing, and you don't want it for your daughter. Like,
yeah, and all those soap opera elements, they just kind of, they really add nothing to the movie, and it kind of, again, because of how it doesn't really fit in the timeline, it just ultimately insults the audience's intelligence, I think.
Mm-hmm.
However, this must be a fucking fun enterprise to write for. I mean, all the gigantic set pieces and visual effects. I mean, this is some like really unmatched fucking visual inventiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many things that they're doing. I mean, including the ends, like the undead sharks that you were just talking about. You know, like the Black Pearl boat kind of like cracking it out of the bottle. There's so many things in this film that somebody had to sit down and think of, like a writing staff had to sit down and be like, what if we did this? And honestly, there's no limit. Like, they're working for Disney, so they're kind of just like,
it's like writing for an animated film at this point, where you can just think of anything and be like, well, they can make it happen.
But it's crazier because it's live action.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, with the only visual effect, and again, I'll get into how fucking phenomenal some of these visual effects are. They're crazy, like really great. Some of the best stuff I've ever seen in a film. But the one visual effect that I didn't like was the de-aging of Johnny Depp.
90% of that whole scene I thought looked really good. When he starts talking, it falls to pieces.
Somebody else said that literally, like verbatim. I don't know. It was.
I was mouth like aghast, like fucking. It's almost better than the Kurt Russell scene for a while when he's not talking, when he's just walking. And you're like, because we've also I feel like maybe it's just more personal. Like, I've seen more younger Johnny Depp movies, and he's also, it's not aging as far. That I didn't watch as many of young Kurt Russell movies, so to see it, I'm like, oh god, that looks like watching him in Henry and June, or Gone. Or Gilbert, What's Eating Gilbert Grape? That
right.
Watching young Johnny Depp again. I was like, oh god, it looks just like him. But then he starts talking, and you're like, oh, now I can see I can see literally the mask that you have for where you're filming him, and then the replacement body that you've put underneath him, and it's not working the moment he starts talking.
Yeah, even before he started talking, I was just kind of like, oh no, it was extremely distracting for me. It felt like a 3D animation that approximated sort of Johnny Depp. You know, it was just it was kind of like if Johnny Depp was on Grand Theft Auto 4, on Xbox 360 or something. It was just very bizarre.
It wasn't calling too much attention to him before he started talking, though. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
That's fine. I know you can't actually recreate young Johnny Depp. You have to make it in a way that where you kind of like a magician, you point our attention elsewhere.
But
it allows us to enjoy the scene elsewhere.
I feel like Disney has done so much through Marvel Studios with the young Iron Man, what's his name?
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. in the one Avengers film. Again, the Kurt Russell film, the Kurt Russell in Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought that they did so much better in that. I don't know than the Robert Downey.
I think they put as much effort into this,
yeah.
Because again, Guardians of the Galaxy was in such high demand when that came out. Captain America, I think that's the one you're thinking. Captain America Civil War,
yeah.
That was in high demand when that came out. We were all waiting for that. No one asked for this fucking movie. I feel like it must have been contractually obligated to some degree, or they were looking at some false metrics somewhere of maybe they're just looking at, that must be the worldwide thing that they're looking at, where they're worldwide people are begging for this movie, because domestically nobody was begging for this movie.
No.
Even when the trailer, it's the type of thing where you would maybe think that the trailer would come out and people would be like, oh my god, god, Pirates is coming back again. But it was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I guess they're doing that again. Last one wasn't that good. It's been 4 years. No, longer. 5 years. 6 years.
And the
2011. Yeah.
It's been a while.
It didn't come out on 9/11. That's false fact. It's fake news.
Fake news. I was about to say that. Another thing was that the Pirates score is fucking iconic, and this one really it brings nothing new to the table. It really just retreads past scores.
It's the first one that's not Klaus Badel or Hans Zimmer working on.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer isn't on this one.
It's someone that was trained by Hans Zimmer because he's got his fucking like harem of like young boys that he trains to work on.
These are my young boys.
There's so many like Harry Gregson Williams and Rupert Gregson Williams, and then like a bunch of other people and Klaus Badel are all people that have like worked under Hans Zimmer for some reason at some point. And he's just kind of like, go forth and create music that sounds like Hans Zimmer. But I forget who this guy was, but he's not one of the better ones.
But it's such an iconic. It's just such an iconic.
It was part of what made the original trilogy so great. Was like that iconic score.
I don't even like these movies, and the score is so iconic.
It created such great like movie moments where like it's up there with like, you know, like Star Wars or like Indiana Jones like scores where you're just like, that's the Pirates score. Like, and when I hear that, I can't help but thinking of like, you know, him fighting like Will Turner in like the blacksmith shop, or like, you know, him running away from like the cannibals in the second movie and stuff like that. Like, there's iconic scenes that are just tied to like that melody from the first trilogy, and they have like notes of that in this, but nothing that really is like, oh, this is truly the marriage of like music and like visuals. Like, nothing ever achieves that in this movie.
Right.
You kind of just forget the music is happening at all.
Yeah. But just to circle back around to the movie, but Captain Salazar, I honestly thought that was incredible visual effects. I fucking love like that perpetual like underwater hair.
Underwater, yeah.
Oh, that was so great. However, he's a fucking totally unnecessary character. There's no big backstory besides him being the captain of like this pirate killing ship while he was still alive, and now he destroys all ships.
He hated pirates when he's alive, and now he hates pirates when he's dead.
But like he destroys like not only pirate ships now, like he destroys all ships really. Like in the beginning, like he was just destroying just regular ships too. I don't entirely understand why he and his crew were cursed. They just kind of like fell into that triangle.
They went into the triangle. They were tricked. They went into the triangle.
That's all it takes to be cursed, is just to crash your ship into the triangle.
You can't go there, Joe. It's a bad place.
Stop.
That's what's so bad about this, is that the other movies had such respect. Not even respect. You don't have to have like, it's not like it's like, you just have to have like a modicum of like intelligence and respect for there maybe is a mythology and like magic to this universe, and just have like somewhat of like wit when you're coming up with this stuff, where this is just like, well, maybe the trident can break all curses, and if you go inside this one triangle, everyone's cursed. Whereas like, like there was like almost like a like reason to like the curses, where it was like in Curse of the Black Pearl, it was because they all took a gold piece, and it was like their greed was cursing them.
Right, exactly.
And there was something else with like all the rest of the curses and the rest of that one that had to do with that in some way. And it was like, this is just kind of like, shouldn't have gone that triangle. It's a bad triangle. It's a devil's triangle.
I really don't also know how the compass works into that whole situation.
It worked in the original trilogy because it was just in a device for like, it always points to what he wants.
Well, I mean, no, I understand that, but I don't know how Salazar.
I don't know how it's linked.
I don't know how
you're not
Salazar.
Dumb. There's nothing that links it to the Devil's Triangle whatsoever.
Knows about, like, even that he has the compass, like, hasn't. Yeah, and again, like I said, Jack Sparrow gives the compass away, like, in 5 or 6 other films. I even remember, and maybe this is wrong, but, like, Jack Sparrow, like, says that he received the compass from, like, some sort of sea goddess or something. But in this film, we see that he gets it from the captain before, like, of that ship that he's on before he dies.
It had something to do with Calypso in one of the movies, I thought.
Yeah, but in this film, it's just like, I'm your captain, I'm some random guy, I'm dying. Here, Jack Sparrow, take this compass. And he's like, okay, I'll get up on a fucking... I don't know.
God, it was bad.
It is.
It was bad for moviegoers everywhere.
I mean, and let's just fucking fast forward to the fucking trident solves everybody's problem. It's such a fucking lazy device. It was so
well, even the way that even the way that they have this weird realization about the understanding of the trident at the end, where it's like they wanted the trident because it would help them rule the seas, and then for some reason Henry thought that it would, like, I guess, just give him the power to break his father's curse. There's no real. There's
everybody.
There's never anyone that they come across as that's like, oh, I've seen the trident and this is the power that it does wield. They're just kind of like, legends foretold that the trident would do this shit. And then they get there, and then, like, again, like, this film sorely needed a lot of things, but it needed some connection to Poseidon to just kind of validate this object that they kind of come across because of some weird, like, why did Barbossa know where it was?
Yeah.
Like, why wasn't he controlling it before? Because he's also just as surprised when they, like, come across, like, because it's his journal. He's the dad. So
why did he fucking break a chip off the fucking ruby of the rock of the island where he put on the journal for her?
If he knows where it fucking is, then, like, why is, like, anytime he come across a problem, he not, like, sailing back to the trident to be like, oh, let me rule the fucking seas?
Yeah, Amazing, like, why don't I just break every fucking curse in the sea?
When I had the curse of the Black Pearl. To be fair, it was before he conceived Karina because of this weird fucking timeline where he's actually probably like 80 years old.
So confusing.
Yeah, but then, like, they get there and they have the trident for a little bit, and there's this whole weird fight over it, and then Henry, after being, like, possessed by Salazar in some weird turn of events, is, like, freed, and then he's, like, there looking at the trident and just has this weird realization while, like, talking with what's her face, where they finally realize what the journal meant, and he's like, oh, if we break it, all the curses are broken everywhere. And it's just kind of like, I can't follow the logical process that he's making with that riddle that's on, like, what was the riddle that was on the front of the journal? I don't remember what it was. It does not make sense.
But even Salazar holds the trident and he says, I feel the power. Which doesn't make sense because, like, it really has no power until it says, like,
all he does is, like, move. He, like, swings it around and he's like, oh, that water's moving a little. Oh, that water's moving a little. Making waves over here. You guys see this
because,
shit?
the hint that is left to them is, like, divide the trident or whatever, and all curses will be broke. And, like, Salazar's like, oh, I feel it! I'm feeling it, baby! And, like really, like, all they had to do is really just, like, break the trident in half. It's just confusing.
You said it even simpler than it even. It's like divide and something. And, like,
divide the trident. I think that's all it was, yeah.
No, it doesn't even say the trident. It just says divide and something. Like, and it's, like, just a weird, like, realization they have to come to where it's like, oh, divide means break it.
There was, like,
this thing that's obviously never happened before because the trident is just a whole piece.
There was such like a beat between like when they found it and when they were like, oh, we gotta fucking break it, like, you know. And even the trident looks so fucking stupid. It looks like the fucking like Rita Repulsa's like staff in the original Power Rangers. I don't know. I really don't know why everybody was fighting over it either, because it just helped everybody.
Yeah, they broke all their curses.
It was like everybody was like fighting over the cure for AIDS. Like it's gonna help all of you guys. All at once. Like, it doesn't matter what's gonna happen. It doesn't matter how fast it's released. Like, you guys
I don't know why Jack was there to begin with. Mm-hmm. He had no like dog in this fight. He should have been out of there. Like, it didn't even fit his character, which is very self-serving. And like, if this is not gonna net me money or some, I guess his only real reason is to stop them from like chasing him and trying to kill him. But you never really, he never had any moment of being like, I am now finally truly scared of like dying because I don't have anything to protect me and these guys are trying to like kill me and they're very powerful. He was just kind of like, well, whatever, I'm really drunk. I'm like just stumbling into this next scene. I don't have any pants on now, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just did whatever the film needed him to do because it needed him to be in it to sell tickets, because who's going to go see a Pirates movie if he's not in it? But like, why not write a script that actually had to do with Jack Sparrow instead of... And that's the other... Like you have like these two characters. I like Karina Smith. I like that actress. I think she does a good job in this in creating a new, fresh character. But I think the storyline she's given is kind of weak. And then I think Henry's storyline is even weaker. And then I think the romance that we're kind of forced into accepting is even weaker between the two of them. I think it says a lot that when the film ends... and we see Elizabeth Swann and Will Turner like actually reunite, I felt more for that than I felt for like Henry and like Karina like actually getting together.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, the Keira Knightley and the Orlando Bloom end. Like, is there any better end to this series than that? Like, that felt like the best end to wrap up of this series. I don't know, like, I was also kind of wondering in the back of my mind, I was like, how much do you think Keira Knightley got to appear but like not say any dialogue,
not wear any makeup to make her look like she should be 50 or 60 years old, which she should actually be?
Yeah, but I mean also it was definitely some sort of choice by the producer or whatever to be like, Keira Knightley's not gonna say anything because we don't want to fucking pay her that much, kind of, you know. But like, still, she had to make like $250,000 or $500,000, right?
I don't want to think about how much fucking, someone was paid to show up on set for one day,
for like
literally
an
one
hour
shot,
or two,
one shot.
Yeah. To be like, oh, I gotta run.
To be fair, she's in the after credits sequence. If you did watch that,
no, yeah, I didn't watch that, but I read about it, and that just is infuriating because
they shouldn't make another.
Well, it's so hard.
It invalidates the closing of that character arc.
It just, this entire movie, it was just kind of like, so there's a stinger after the credits. In Will and Elizabeth's house, they're sleeping in their bed. There's a menacing shadow that implies that Davy Jones is back. And like after them, I guess. Even though Davy Jones died in a fucking, like, didn't he die in like a big storm or something? I don't fucking know.
Captain Barbossa died in the first movie.
Yes, so. No, it's very true. And then, I mean, but this Poseidon's trident broke all of the curses, so why is Davy Jones still...
That's true.
Why is he still a fucking crab tentacle man? It's like this whole stinger brings a fucking...
That's why he's so angry.
It's like...
You're all happy and I'm still a squid.
It brings this whole, like, the writers did not think through this whole fucking, like, once they break the trident, this breaks all the curses on the sea. Like, that brings a fucking myriad of questions of just kind of like every 2 seconds, these people are running into people who are like, I was cursed and that's why I'm a fucking decomposing corpse crab person. Like that's what this whole series is made of. And if they think they're going to make another film of just people who are like, I'm a normal pirate, instead of like, I'm a fucking squid zombie, help me, please. Like, you know, like the curse has been broken. Like, what are you gonna do with this? Why is Davy Jones still a fucking lobster claw on screen?
That, but that's very true. I was mainly just thinking about, like, why are you invalidating this entire character arc that you just completed with Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann? Like, we finally got the closure.
Beyond that,
we got the closure we were looking for in terms of, like, oh, now they can finally complete this romance that we were, like, so teased and tantalized by in the trilogy, and then we were delayed because of the curse that, like, he had to fall through to sacrifice himself in that movie. And it's like, you finally completed that. That's all good and well. And then, now it's like, oh, not only is this guy after
you broke all
it doesn't
curses,
even make sense in the script.
You broke all curses on the sea, I guess, except Davy Jones.
Oh, God. I also thought, like, I didn't laugh once in this movie.
Same.
Maybe once or twice, but, like, not as
I
much
think
as I
laughed during the guillotine part, and that was it. That was, like, my favorite
I don't know
plot
if
piece.
I did during that. I thought it was cool. I didn't really laugh during it. Anything that Johnny Depp said, I definitely didn't laugh at in this movie, because the entire time I was just, like, fuming, where I was like, this is not fucking Jack Sparrow. Like, he's just doing this weird impression. He literally forgot how to do Jack Sparrow. It used to be, like, his bread and butter, and now he can't even do that to dial it in for, like, $6 million or whatever they paid him for this fucking movie. There's so many jokes that I felt like just fell flat from either, like, poor delivery or very poor writing. Like, there was the one scene where, like, some of it worked. The one part that I do remember laughing about is, at first she's talking about how she's into, like, astronomy, and, like, people are like, oh, like, is that, like, when you do something with, like, a fucking donkey or whatever? And it was, like, this just awful screenwriting joke that did not play at all. And then
horology.
No, that was later. That was the part that I did laugh at. Like, after that,
I did not like that.
They make
part.
the joke about, like, oh, but, like, she didn't even bring her donkey, and, like, that was, like, supposed to be, like, a big button for that scene to end it. Fell so flat. Nobody in my theater even laughed. I did like the I thought the horology one was funnier because I could see the comedic threads in terms of, not even the comedic threads, the logical threads in terms of, oh, these pirates would think that horology meant, like, being a whore. And there's kind of just, like, this almost unspoken punchline where they're, like, looking at each other like, oh, horology, like, that means she's a whore. That was funnier than, like, being like astronomy means a fucking, like, donkey breeder or whatever the fuck they said. Like, that made no sense. And then the other, like, part that I didn't really get was, like, when she got the galley broke down, she came down, and Henry caught her, and there was this whole, like, exchange of, like, punchlines between them where I know they were trying to recreate those types of scenes where it's like, oh, like, it's this weird sexual thing where if I don't do this sexual thing, like, something dangerous will happen. But I just was not buying any of that in that scene, like, logically. Like, oh, I have to grab your ass in order for you to, like, not die in this weird scene. Like, there's no other way for me to hold you without just fucking copping a feel on your butt cheeks this entire scene.
Yeah.
And you also can't even see that really happening, so you're just kind of like,
it's so bizarre.
All of it falls flat in that entire scene. I can barely understand what they're saying in that entire scene. Like, that was when I was really starting to check out of this movie. Was like, nothing's working. The humor's not working. The action's barely working in this movie. Nobody's really acting up to their skill or what is required in this movie. The writing is fucking horrible in this movie. Like, the visuals are, like, the only nice thing I can say about this movie. It's really beautiful looking. It's the entire way through. Like, even when it's not action, it's really well lit. They have really nice, like, sky replacement going on behind them. Like, a lot of the stuff is made to look like it's happening at, like, golden hour or, like, twilight. Like, really nice scenes.
Honestly, I wouldn't have minded if this film was just I fucking would fall for the gags. Like, I really like some of these gags, and like I just wish this fucking movie was like a Wile E. Coyote fucking cartoon at some point, where it was just kind of like I lived for the gags and everything else between was just kind of like, oh, this like father-daughter plot line, like, you know, like,
or Paul McCartney cameo.
Stupid. Yeah, it was just kind of like,
oh, that was so dumb.
Why?
They dragged it out so long too. It literally should have just been like, that's Paul McCartney in a beard, 2 lines, he's out of here, bye. It was like 2 minutes of like, oh, we're gonna keep exchanging this stuff. Yeah. And for some reason, these guards aren't gonna drag me to hang me and allow me to talk for like 5 minutes to this fucking other prisoner.
So weird.
And it wasn't even funny.
Yeah.
And it was so obviously Paul McCartney too. Like the Keith Richard thing was like, oh, that fits. Like, you wear the eyeliner and shit. Like that kind of works.
Right.
Paul McCartney's like, oh, you are like a normal person.
Yeah.
That was weird.
That was weird. I didn't even think about that till now.
Oh yeah, you're thinking about it now.
I mean, like, yeah, I felt embarrassed when it was happening, and then I didn't revisit it till now. And now I'm feeling embarrassed for Paul McCartney.
Okay, let's get into some reviews or some ratings real quick. And
let's do it.
Let's get out of this movie. On review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 31% based on 185 reviews.
Oh no!
And an average rating of 4.6 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads: Pirates of the I really like this consensus, by the way. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales proves that neither a change in directors nor an undead Javier Bardem is enough to drain this sinking franchise's murky bilge. No mercy.
I'll go first, though, since you've been going first all night. And I really don't have anything else to say, really. Again, like I was just about to say, the father-daughter fucking plotline was so cringeworthy. They didn't lay any track in any sort of previous movies.
Doesn't make sense for Barbossa's character. He's just like this entirely pleasure-seeking character.
It was just like this weird attempt to inject like emotional stakes into a situation that has no emotional stakes, and in conclusion just comes out so fake and weird and hinders the performance that she gives. I don't know. I feel like I've said everything else I needed to say during this review. I don't have a whole lot to say during this review. I feel like I've put it all out on the table. I'm just going to give it 1 finger out of 5. That's our usual scoring process, because one hand traditionally...
We're going to keep with 5 fingers.
Yes. One hand traditionally has 5 fingers, and that's our usual rubric for what we do. Hi, my name is Joe. Been drinking pretty heavily tonight. Hey, Mike, what do you think about this?
I've pretty much said all that I really need to say about this film.
There's no real recapping of this film.
The only like summary I can think of is just that like so many other times, and you guys are familiar with this if you've listened to this podcast at length for any period of time, like when I review other movies, I can usually be like, this is how I would have done this. Like there's something good in here. I know what you guys were going for. This is how I would have worked around it. This just shouldn't have been made. Like, nobody was asking for another Pirates movie. Clearly, Johnny Depp was not up for making another Pirates movie because he...
Mike, what if they make a fucking $1 billion, though? How do you turn that down?
That's the thing. They made money worldwide. I'm sorry.
How do you fucking
I always forget about the money.
$1 billion... $1 billion!
They've already doubled it. They made, what, $400 million worldwide, and they spent $200 million. I'm sure they spent more on marketing, but still. They made some money. But it's just like...
Enough dummies in America want to go see it. What is stopping them?
No, literally 75% of their money was made foreign and not domestic. So clearly,
foreign dummies want to go see it.
But my point being that, like, usually I have some kind of, like with Wonder Woman that we reviewed next week. Spoiler alert. I didn't really like it, but I can see what the idea was. I can see the kind of kernel of like, this is what the good movie should have been, and you just lost it with doing some of these weird decisions around it. And I can respect some of the this. I'm like, it just shouldn't have been made. Like, there's no real narrative thrust that's like, this is why you should care about this story. Like, they try to do that through Henry Turner caring about Will Turner, but it doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work in terms of, oh, he's his son, so we have to care. Like, you have to make us care about this character in order to make us care about this character. You can't just say he's the son of someone and we automatically care. Like, it does not work that way. So there's at no point in this film did I care about anything that was going on, and like, the only thing I can really say positive is just like that the visuals are really fucking cool in this movie.
Unmatched.
But it feels like to like a comical degree where like I say that about like a lot of Marvel movies where I'm like, oh, they look really cool, but there's no substance. This is like the like comical degree of like, oh, what is a movie that looks really, really cool but has zero substance to it, whatever.
Yep.
There's not even any like moral like message to be like told about this movie, much less like an emotional character arc to be like learned from this movie. Like, things just happen because they need to happen to get to this next set piece in the movie. I hate this movie so much. But because of how...
Did I say that I tried to fall asleep during this movie?
I didn't. Yeah. I was entertained. That's why I will not give it like a horrible zero-finger score. The visuals are incredible in this movie.
They are.
They literally carry this entire movie. It was really hard for me to be bored in this movie, even though I didn't care. At no point did I want to look away from this movie because of how good it looks. And maybe just because I did really like the original trilogy, so I was hoping at one point it was gonna like, even like On Stranger Tides, which is like a garbage movie, I was still kind of like, I'm happy to be back in this franchise again. I was very sad to be back in this franchise again watching this movie. So I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna give it one finger completely on the merits of the visuals are very, very cool. Technically, they do some really impressive stuff in this movie, enough to make it actually very interesting to watch and entertaining and not boring. But the writing is garbage, the acting is garbage, the idea to make this movie again was garbage.
Have you seen On Stranger Tides?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters, yeah.
Oh, okay. I heard that movie was even worse.
This is worse. This
is worse?
Mainly because Johnny Depp is still doing Jack Sparrow in that, and Jack Sparrow is still being written as Jack Sparrow. It feels like just another Jack Sparrow adventure. It almost feels like a bonus feature to like the original trilogy, whereas this feels like Jack Sparrow doing an impression of, or Johnny Depp doing an impression of Jack Sparrow. Like, he does not feel like, it was painful to watch him playing Jack Sparrow in this.
Right.
I could not. I think even if like the rest of the movie had been great, I still could at best give it like a 2 fingers because of how bad Johnny Depp was playing Jack Sparrow in this. There's no excuse for having like built your entire career on like this iconic character and not being able to return to it for a 5th film. Like, you have, if you're gonna get paid this much, I'm sorry, you have to be able to do that 5 times.
Yeah, no.
There's no excuse to dial it in for a 5th time. So I'll agree. I'll give it 1 finger. Obviously, that's going to come out to 1 finger from the podcast. I don't recommend anyone go see this. If it shows up on Netflix, Please. Sure, give it a watch.
But... Yeah. Please don't. But I don't think any of the pirate movies are on Netflix. Don't go see this movie in theaters.
Definitely not. Let's throw some shit and get out of here. Oh, also,
lay it on me.
Continue the conversation.
Do it
on Twitter or Facebook or SoundCloud or YouTube or whatever. Just talk to us about what you thought about this movie.
Did you love this movie? Did you hate this movie? Let us know about it. I mean, either way, I'm always open to the fact that you thought this movie was better than we thought it was. This conversation never ends. Every movie, any movie from years ago, we're always continuing the conversation, so we'd always love to hear what you guys think.
This entire podcast is based around talking about movies, so feel free to talk about movies with us.
And again, ideally, we'd like to get to a place where you guys talk about movies in the future that we haven't reviewed yet.
Before we review them.
And you guys sending us reviews and us talking about your reviews or your thoughts on the movie while we review the movie.
Send us some tweets with some reviews. God, I'm going to read all these links again. Philadelphia Podcast Festival. We're performing live July 16th at Tattooed Mom at 4 p.m.
Come get it.
In Philadelphia. Be about it. Come get it. HowManyFingersPodcast.com. Everything there.
Come get it, fam.
Rate us on iTunes. We would love some ratings and reviews. Sign up for our mailing list on MailChimp. Link on our website, HowManyFingersPodcast.com. You guys are probably so sick of hearing all this shit. But it bears repeating. So subscribe to our YouTube. Link on our website, HowManyFingersPodcast.com. Buy some... Oh, we don't have koozies out because we were drinking...
Buy some Merc.
Why is the rum half gone?
We don't need to show you to tell you that we have t-shirts, koozies, stickers, and a package deal for $11.99. I don't think there's any other fucking podcast that's giving you stickers, a t-shirt, and a fucking koozie for $11.99.
I don't even think bands are doing that shit.
You know what? Honestly...
And they're broker than we are.
We're giving this shit away for free practically to you guys. And we love you for it.
But a little money. HowManyFingersPodcast.BigCartel.com. Oh God, we're so tired. Amazon link, iTunes link, click on either. You'll anything you purchase within either respective platform within 24 hours after clicking on those links, we'll get a little cut of that. Easy way to support the podcast without going too far out of your way. Please do it. Help us. We're both unemployed.
Go do that.
And next week, like we said, check out a review of Wonder Woman with Sean Mason of Seas of Wake and viral video fame of late. Great episode. We already recorded it. We're recording out of order. So I can guarantee that's a great episode.
It's a better episode than this.
Depends what you're looking for. If you want drunk Joe and Mike, this was the episode to go to. If you want some thoughtful criticism of a very popular movie, Wonder Woman is where to go next week. So check that out.
Hit it up.
That's about all I got. Again, one finger for Pirates of the Caribbean. Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Caribbean, Mike.
Caribbean.
Pirates of the
Caribbeaner.
Well, we both said racist things during this review. You're just going to wait to the end for Mike's. Mine's right at the beginning, and I say, Curse of the Black Girl. Okay.
What was racist about mine?
You said Carabiner.
Like the key thing.
No, you meant the Mexican
That's
guy.
not what I meant. Let's sign out before we lose
Mike
everybody else.
Mexican guys.
Signing out for How Many Fingers Podcast. I don't hate Mexicans, and I'm Mike.
I'm Joe, and I know Mike's hate Mexicans.